Dark clouds hover ominously over the rolling hills of the southbound carriageway. An endless flow of cattle-like traffic rumbles atop the cold, hard tarmac, ever onwards through this liminal wasteland of petrol fumes and fly-tipped wreckage towards, presumably, somewhere of note. Fog descends over the fields, cloaking the livestock like a winter coat, and leaving only a narrow chasm of air in front of us by which to navigate. Every mile looks the same as the last, every distance marker, every unblinking cat's eye. The constant, unbroken rumbling that numbs my eardrums into a muffled, weary ache. Every driver of every car, comatose in their unblinking alertness, stare ahead, coolly blinkered to the shadowy eyes glaring at them from the roadsides, formless entities from time immemorial, black eyes, forgotten identities, names never spoken in extinct tongues, and bodies long since returned to the earth, their very fibres endlessly churned and regurgitated into patches of barren soil and scrubland weeds. Under the very road itself, the last vestiges of 1,000,000 ancestors clash, fuse and vibrate under the pressure of 100,000 lorries. In a lay-by, a procession in black scatter the ashes of a loved one into the oncoming traffic. The departed would stand there for hours every day and watch the world go by. The embers of this squandered life form a glib cloud which drifts across the lanes into the path of a speeding car. The driver, blinded, swerves into a nearby tree and shoots as though out of a cannon, through the windscreen and into the thorny evergreen hedgerow. The funeral party pick through his belongings and salvage a number of CDs from the glove compartment. A little further down the road, a police car stops traffic in order to conduct a search. A tent poorly hidden amongst the dead winter trees, an old man cooking snails over a cigarette lighter, cloaked in the discarded plastic wrappings of a hay bale. The officer arrests the man by the tufts of his long grey beard and drags him out into the glaring headlights. "That's for holding up traffic," he says, beating the man into a bloody pulp and draping him, marooned, over the crash barriers. Taking advantage of the stationary vehicles, a woman with a sponge spits on windscreens in exchange for some loose, charitable change. Having witnessed the appalling sight firsthand, we share a moment of sympathy and solidarity with the woman and the bedraggled sack of broken bones before moving along our way. Perhaps, we console ourselves, the two unfortunates began a long and prosperous romance that night. The clouds above us seem to be growing darker as we drive further and further south, a great iron dome covering the sky from one horizon to the next. We pass through a dank, urine-stained tunnel, half a mile of dingy yellow light, brighter but somehow darker than the light outside. My skull aches from the blaring of horns, like a medieval army entering the fray of battle. In the mouth of the tunnel, a gaggle of scrawny and blistered youths sell their teeth, flesh and marrow to one another for a 5-minute turn closest to the incinerator. One of them lies face down like a parachutist in the mud, needles sticking out of his back like some great porcupine. His clothes, article by article, are stripped off his lifeless body and thrown into the fire. Drops of heroin collected from his syringes, emptied into the communal jug. As we drive on, we see a young girl, still rosy-cheeked and scar-free, making her way down the hard shoulder towards the hope of some bread and a warmer night. We pass a petrol station. The prices are extortionate, and the Costa machine is broken. Still further, we overtake a hearse. The coffin is lined with decorative flowers that spell out the name Pedro. Unfortunately for him, the letter R has fallen over, tarnishing the unfortunate man's legacy to every passing driver. An obnoxious rattle of tins up ahead signifies the presence of a wedding car. Just married, S and C, inscribed on the rear bumper. The sound is quickly drowned out by the wail of a pair of babies, just visible through the blood-splattered windows. "It's a good job the bride only has to wear the dress once," I remark as we overtake. No sooner have we done so than we see the groom through the rear view mirror, clambering out of the sunroof, spit down upon the occupants and jump into the path of an oncoming delivery van. It's a good job he only has to wear that suit once, I remark, as we slow for the roadworks. Behind the miles of traffic cones, hundreds of men in orange jumpsuits swing pickaxes into the tarmac. Their sweat forms into puddles that threaten to flood the road and cause yet more delays. The warden, whip in hand, lashes at the weariest, the slowest, the eldest until they fall one by one into the jagged holes they created. When we reach the national speed limit sign, I notice the surfacing machine with engine chugging away, ready to pave over the pitiable lot. But the traffic doesn't speed up for long, for yet again we're log-jammed. Now in the suburbs of some nameless commuter belt town, we join the back of a parade. People line the streets, grabbing, clawing desperately at the passing cars. Red, white and blue bunting hangs from the lampposts. From up above, a shower of confetti, an interlude to the rain. And up ahead, only 3 cars in front, is the main attraction. A returning hero, proudly waving to the crowd in his medal-adorned uniform and shiny leather boots. On his shoulder, a rifle, bayonet fixed and sharp as a razor blade. And skewered on it, spit-roasted, the corpse of a young boy, dark-haired and clothed in dusty rags. An intravenous line loops down into a novelty drinks hat. The crowds cheer. The children clamour. The old men wave their flags and pray for the cold heavens to open. Our headlights flick on as night encroaches. A good-natured woman in a beige cardigan picks litter off the verges. Mostly empty Happy Meal boxes and clear plastic bottles of stale urine. She almost looks as though she enjoys the drudgery of her work, despite the fact that it will all have to be repeated tomorrow, and the day after that, and every day until the sun burns up or the road is diverted. The car ahead hits her square in the cheek with an admittedly well-aimed piss grenade. She barely even flinches. The cap had been left just open enough for the contents to explode on impact. At the top of the hill ahead, I see a body swinging by a length of piano wire from a high flickering lamppost. The bag over the head is the only thing covering the body which might be described as clothing. Over the summit, and we see another and another, more and more, stretching out as far as the night permits us to see. All similarly attired. Not one left unbrutalised. The sight is shocking, even after all we've seen. But after a few miles we start to notice the trees again. The storm clouds over the distant mountains. The daffodils growing despite the dripping of blood and ever-present shade. I open the window and feel the cool nighttime air on my face. The stench of death fades hastily into the scenery, just like the guilt and the sensation of speed. I take a deep breath. I exhale. I lean back. I could almost fall asleep. The new Nissan Qashqai, built for even the toughest of drives.